Imagine standing in a damp Norman field before sunrise. The air is cold, the ground is wet. A faint mist hangs over the hedgerows. Somewhere ahead, hidden among the trees and bushes, sits a weapon that has terrified armies across Europe for years. German soldiers call it reliable. Allied soldiers call it deadly. Historians will later call it one of the most feared machine guns ever built. The MG42. Its rapid fire sounds less like gunshots and more like a giant sheet of cloth being ripped apart. One burst can cut down an entire squad. One well-placed machine gun can stop an attack before it even begins. For years, German machine gunners believed in the power of that weapon. They had good reason to. Across Poland, France, the Soviet Union, and North Africa, the MG42 and its predecessor, the MG34, had earned a fearsome reputation. German infantry tactics were built around the machine gun. The riflemen supported the gun, not the other way around. Everything revolved around keeping that weapon firing. But by late 1944, something strange was happening on the Western Front. German machine gunners still had their MG42s. They still had ammunition. They still occupied strong defensive positions, yet many of them were becoming hesitant. Some began waiting longer before opening fire. Others became nervous whenever they pulled the trigger. A weapon that once inspired confidence was now bringing anxiety. The machine gun had not changed. The battlefield had. To understand why, we need to go back to June 1944. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces landed in Normandy. The beaches became scenes of chaos and violence. German machine guns inflicted terrible casualties. At places like Omaha Beach, American soldiers faced some of the most intense machine gun fire of the war. Many young soldiers never made it beyond the sand. From the German perspective, the machine gun seemed to be proving its worth once again. Yet hidden beneath the surface was a problem that would grow larger with every passing month. The Americans were learning. American commanders carefully studied every engagement. Officers gathered reports. Platoon leaders discussed tactics. Veterans passed lessons to new arrivals. Every painful experience became a lesson rather than a permanent disadvantage. Soon, American units developed methods specifically designed to deal with machine gun positions. Instead of charging directly toward the source of fire, squads spread out. Soldiers used terrain more effectively. One element pinned the enemy while another maneuvered around the flank. Mortars were called in quickly. Artillery support became increasingly responsive. The machine gun was still dangerous, but it was no longer untouchable. Near St. El in July 1944, American forces fought through a maze of hedgerows. Each field was bordered by thick earth banks and dense vegetation. German machine gun crews loved this terrain. They could hide easily and establish deadly kill zones. At first, the results seemed promising for the defenders. Then, American soldiers adapted. Instead of exposing entire formations, they moved in smaller groups. Scouts carefully searched for firing positions. Engineers blasted openings through hedgerows. Tanks supported infantry at close range. Again and again, German machine gunners discovered that the moment they opened fire, their position became the focus of overwhelming attention. A burst of machine gun fire revealed more than their location. It announced their presence to everyone nearby. Within minutes, rifle fire answered back. Mortars followed. Sometimes artillery arrived. American soldiers did not simply absorb punishment and continue forward, they reacted aggressively. This pattern repeated itself across Normandy. The machine gun remained powerful, but every trigger pull carried new risks. One German veteran later described how machine gun crews increasingly felt hunted. The first burst often achieved surprise. The second burst brought return fire. The third burst sometimes brought destruction. This growing reality became especially dangerous because of American artillery. Few battlefield experiences frightened German soldiers more than American artillery. Throughout the war, the United States developed one of the most effective artillery systems in existence. Forward observers carried radios. Communications networks improved constantly. Fire missions could be coordinated with remarkable speed. A machine gun that revealed itself might suddenly attract artillery fire within a surprisingly short time. German soldiers began noticing the pattern. Fire, wait, then shells. At first, some believed it was coincidence. Eventually, many realized it was becoming predictable. The very weapon that protected them was also exposing them. As summer turned into autumn, American forces pushed deeper into France. The German army faced increasing pressure. Fuel shortages became severe. Replacements became harder to find. Experienced veterans were lost faster than they could be replaced. Machine gun crews felt this pressure directly. Training new machine gunners took time. A skilled crew needed coordination. Barrel changes had to be performed quickly. Ammunition had to be managed carefully. Positions had to be selected wisely. When experienced soldiers disappeared, effectiveness suffered. Meanwhile, American units grew stronger through experience. Many soldiers who survived Normandy became hardened veterans. They understood how German defenses worked. They knew the sound of an MG42. They knew how to react. The psychological balance slowly shifted. A machine gun remained dangerous. But fear was no longer one-sided. The change became even more visible during operations along the German border. By late 1944, American troops frequently combined infantry, armor, artillery, and air support into coordinated operations. German machine gun crews often found themselves confronting not just riflemen, but entire systems working together. Imagine being hidden inside a defensive position. You hear movement ahead. You know enemy troops are approaching. For years, doctrine has taught you to wait until the perfect moment. Then you fire. The weapon roars to life. The first seconds feel familiar, but moments later, everything changes. American riflemen scatter. Some seek cover. Others begin maneuvering. Radio operators start transmitting. Mortar teams prepare responses. Tank commanders search for muzzle flashes. Suddenly, your concealed position becomes the center of attention. You are no longer the hunter. You are the target. This growing realization spread through many German units. It did not mean machine gunners stopped fighting. Far from it. German machine gun crews continued fighting with determination until the end of the war. But confidence and certainty are different things. Confidence was beginning to crack. One battlefield where this became especially apparent was the Hürtgen Forest. Beginning in September 1944 and continuing for months, brutal fighting took place inside dense woods near the German border. The terrain was terrible. Visibility was limited. Movement was difficult. Artillery shells exploded among trees, creating deadly showers of splinters. Machine guns remained dangerous. Yet they faced the same fundamental problem. Every burst revealed a position. American soldiers became increasingly skilled at locating firing points through sound, observation, and coordinated response. The forest amplified fear. Machine gunners often could not see exactly where return fire was coming from. They only knew it was coming. Many crews found themselves relocating frequently. Fire, move, hide, repeat. The battlefield had become a deadly game of survival. Then came December 1944. The Ardennes Offensive, better known as the Battle of the Bulge. Germany launched its final major offensive in the West. For a brief period, German forces regained momentum. Machine guns once again played major roles in defensive and offensive operations. Yet even during this dramatic campaign, the underlying problem remained. American troops had become experienced. Many units reacted quickly under fire. Small groups often continued fighting effectively despite confusion and surprise. German machine gun crews discovered that achieving tactical success was becoming increasingly difficult. The enemy was adapting faster than before. During battles around Bastogne, American defenders repeatedly demonstrated resilience under heavy pressure. German machine gun positions could inflict casualties, but they rarely produced the paralysis that commanders hoped for. The Americans kept responding, kept maneuvering, kept communicating, kept fighting. For machine gun crews, this persistence was frustrating. A weapon designed to dominate the battlefield was encountering opponents who refused to behave as expected. By early 1945, another factor emerged: American air superiority. Whenever weather conditions allowed, Allied aircraft posed constant threats. Machine gun positions were not always primary targets, but the overall environment added pressure to German defenders. Movement became risky. Resupply became difficult. Concealment became essential. Every firing position required careful consideration. A machine gun could still kill. But surviving after firing became increasingly challenging. As Allied armies crossed into Germany itself, countless small engagements reflected this new reality. American infantry approached villages, forests, and defensive lines. German machine gun crews prepared ambushes. The opening moments often followed familiar patterns. Then came the response: mortars, rifle grenades, tank fire, artillery, flanking movements. The machine gun remained dangerous, yet its ability to control the battlefield was steadily shrinking. Some German veterans later reflected on how much battlefield psychology had changed. Earlier in the war, opening fire often created confidence. Later in the war, opening fire often created anxiety. Would artillery arrive? Would tanks appear? Had observers already spotted the position? Were American troops already maneuvering around the flank? Every burst carried uncertainty, and uncertainty creates fear. This psychological dimension is often overlooked when discussing weapons. People focus on technical specifications: rate of fire, range, accuracy, ammunition, yet wars are fought by human beings. Human beings experience stress. Fear, exhaustion, doubt. A machine gun is only as effective as the crew operating it. If the crew begins questioning its own survival, battlefield behavior changes. The MG42 remained one of the finest machine guns ever produced. Its reputation was deserved, its firepower was real, its effectiveness was undeniable. But technology alone cannot guarantee victory. That lesson became increasingly clear during the final year of the war. American forces succeeded not because they possessed a magical solution. They succeeded because they combined training, communication, artillery, armor, logistics, and adaptability. Each element reinforced the others. The result was a system that made static machine gun positions increasingly vulnerable. German crews noticed, and they reacted accordingly. Some waited longer before firing, some relocated more often. Some became cautious about revealing positions. These were not signs of weakness. They were signs of survival instincts. Experienced soldiers understood that every decision carried consequences. The first burst of machine gun fire could still stop an attack, but it could also trigger a chain reaction leading directly back to the gun itself. This reality became one of the defining features of combat in Western Europe during 1944 and 1945. The machine gun had not failed. The battlefield had evolved around it. As the war entered its final months, American forces continued advancing across Germany. Cities fell. Bridges were captured. Defensive lines collapsed. Machine guns remained present in nearly every engagement, yet the fear they inspired was no longer absolute. American soldiers respected them. They never underestimated them, but they understood them. And understanding reduces fear. German machine gunners sensed this change. Perhaps that was the most significant transformation of all. When a weapon loses its psychological dominance, part of its power disappears. The MG42 still fired at incredible speed. Its bullets remained deadly. Its crews remained brave. Yet many machine gunners increasingly knew something their predecessors had not. The moment they fired first, they might have started a countdown against themselves. That was the hidden lesson emerging from the battlefields of Normandy, the Hürtgen Forest, Bastogne, and the German frontier. The Americans did not make German machine gunners afraid through one weapon, one battle, or one tactic. They did it through constant adaptation. Every lesson learned, every improved procedure, every coordinated response, every aggressive maneuver. Together, these changes created a battlefield where firing first could become a dangerous choice. And that is what makes this story so remarkable. The most feared machine gun of the Second World War never lost its power. Its barrels still spat fire. Its ammunition still tore through the air. Its sound still froze blood. Yet by the war's end, many of the men behind those guns had learned a hard truth. Sometimes the most dangerous moment was not when the enemy fired. Sometimes the most dangerous moment was when they fired first. That is how American troops changed the battlefield. That is how they challenged one of Germany's greatest tactical strengths. And that is how countless German machine gunners discovered that the weapon they trusted most could also reveal the exact place where their own battle might end.